But I remember having a dream one night where I could smell beef cooking and I could almost taste it. And so the next day I told my best friend who had known me since, my vegetarian days, I said, I think I'm gonna go and have some beef. She's like, what? So I tried the beef and it was absolutely amazing.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching our videos. If you'd like to support us some more, you can explore our homemade natural skincare products at purelytallow.com. Thank you so much for supporting my small business. Hey everybody, welcome to the Carnivore Revolution. My guest today is Miley, and Miley is a certified keto carnivore coach working on some experiments with her calories. So we're going to talk about that and we're going to get her story first. Miley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. We've talked about this for several weeks about trying to get together and do a conversation. And so I'm kind of excited that your journey has taken a little bit of a turn in the last week with you upping your calories and kind of doing an experiment, because I think it's so great to talk about those things so people understand that there are so many different ways to be on this journey that we're on. So let's start with your story though, how you ended up being low carb and things that have healed and all of that.
Sure. Yeah. Well, mine actually started with gut issues. I've had gut issues since as long as I can remember. Being a little kid, going to the doctor putting me, I think, on the brat diet, the bananas, rice, applesauce, toast. He basically told my mom just to feed me any food that is white. So, which, looking back, I'm like, oh my, that's such crazy advice. But he was on to something because that diet was pretty much no fiber. So, anyway, at 10, I declared myself a vegetarian. And so from 10 until, probably in my late 20s, early 30s, I was some variation of plant-based. I would be kind of a standard vegetarian where I would still include eggs and dairy. Sometimes I'd go through years of including seafood. I did several years of being vegan, and the whole time, my gut issues were either just staying the same, it's basic IBS type symptoms, or there'd be periods where it got much worse. I actually found that for me, when I was doing vegan, my gut issues got a lot worse. So that was usually when I was including a lot more vegetables, a lot more fiber. So yeah, after my first pregnancy, which was a long time ago now,
Same.
I started having what I now know as symptoms of hypothyroidism, which was increasing my gut problems and giving me a whole host of new symptoms that and at the time I didn't know what they were. So I went to my general practitioner, told her what was going on. She kind of palpated my thyroid a little bit and said, well, your thyroid feels fine, so just keep moving. So then I went through another several years of just feeling really bad, gaining weight, having all these symptoms. And I finally decided, if no one's going to give me any answers, I'm going to need to find the answers myself. So I started a low carb diet, and that actually helped some. In this process, I also found that I was extremely sensitive to gluten. So I eliminated gluten, kind of went paleo. I think it's kind of a lot of people's, standard journey. You go paleo, and then I was like, well, paleo is feeling really good, but I bet I could feel better.
Yep.
So then I reduced carbs more and eventually went to keto, and all of those things were amazing. Like they helped me along the way, but never resolved the gut issues. So I think about maybe 7 years ago, I started hearing about carnivore, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is crazy.
That's insane.
And I hadn't eaten beef. I had started adding some chicken and things at that point, but I had not had any red meat. I was so terrified of having red meat, thought it was just going to absolutely destroy my already, screwed up digestion. But I remember having a dream one night where I could smell beef cooking and I could almost taste it. And so the next day I told my best friend who had known me since, my vegetarian days, I said, I think I'm going to go and have some beef. She's like, what? So I tried the beef and it was absolutely amazing. And fast forward, I decided to do 30 days of carnivore to see if it would actually help resolve my gut issues. And surprise, surprise, it did. And so I did that full 30 days, just eating meat. I did include dairy, but basically all animal products. And my gut felt the best that it had felt in probably my entire life. So then I got a little cocky and I was like, oh, I'm going to start reintroducing foods. I feel amazing. I'm healed. got to Christmas, somebody sent us this amazing pie from a Texas restaurant that's known for their pies, their pecan pies. And I'm like, I think I'm just going to taste the pie. You know, I'm feeling so good and I've added food just back in. I'm going to try the pie. Fully gluten pie. And it was okay. So then I had a little the next day, and then someone brought over cupcakes, and you know how this goes.
I do. I know
So
exactly how this goes.
I ate gluten for 2 weeks, almost every single day. And then I started having symptoms that were like a heart attack. I was having numbness and tingling down my arm. I was losing vision in one of my eyes. I was shaky, sweaty, nauseous, anxious. I was having panic attacks. Wasn't putting two and two together because my gut actually still felt okay. And eventually went to urgent care. Urgent care said, you need to go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, thought they're just going to tell me I'm having a panic attack and they'll send me on my way. And he said, we're actually going to admit you. We think you might be having a stroke.
Oh my goodness.
So I spent 4 days in the hospital. At that point, I made the connection.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not having a stroke. This is gluten. They did all the tests that you can possibly imagine, ruled out stroke, sent me home, scratching their heads, not knowing what's going on. Even though I was saying, I think it's gluten. I think I'm severely sensitive to gluten. They sort of brushed that off. And it took a month for me to detox from that gluten binge. And after that, I was like, no, we're going to go back to basically ketovore or an animal-based diet that was very low carb. And I wasn't perfect, and I don't believe in perfect anyway, but I did the best that I could. But then I started gaining weight again. So kind of played around with some things. Long story short, I ended up back at a mostly carnivore diet in the beginning of this year and feeling really good. The thing that really ended up turning the needle, or, you know, for both my gut health and the thyroid, was the combination of a mainly animal foods based diet, being really low carb, and then actually circadian practices. I went and got certified in circadian and quantum biology, or applied quantum biology. And so the combination, I feel like, is magic. Doing keto, carnivore, and then getting your sunlight, getting your circadian rhythms right, doing all these really amazing, cool quantum things, I feel like it's magic. So that's kind of where I am now. I'm mostly carnivore for most of the year. I live in the mountains, and I try to eat seasonally. So in the mountains in the winter, we don't have access to anything plant food that is locally grown. So I'm pretty strictly carnivore all through the fall and winter. But then in the late spring and summer, when our farmers market opens, I experiment a little bit with low sugar fruits, pretty much.
And how do you do with that? Does any of that upset your stomach or anything?
It really just depends on what it is. I actually tried a little bit of watermelon the other day, and it wasn't grown like exactly here. I think it came from someplace else, but I thought, well, you know, I'm in the sun every day. I ate it outside. I'm doing all the circadian things, and it did not go well. So
yeah, it's really interesting how one of the things that I love about the carnivore diet, and I'd say you're the same, is that once you've eliminated everything else, you can add things back in one at a time, or just try something here and there, and then you can see what really bothers you.
Exactly. I mean, it's the ultimate elimination diet. And honestly, I'm not even really craving anything. But I like to test. I want to see where my gut is. I want to see if I'm truly healing, or if I'm just kind of, you know, Band-Aid approaching it. And I do feel like I'm actually truly healing. So yeah, it's just kind of a fun experiment. I will never, ever, ever have gluten again. I don't eat grains. I don't eat legumes, those big heavy starches, any of that. It's mainly just some berries here and there, maybe cucumber, some avocado, melon, things like that. And it's still small quantities. One thing I have noticed though, is that in the past, fruit would have kind of triggered not full on binges, but I would just want to keep eating more and more of the sweet stuff. I don't feel that now. And I'm thinking that it probably has to do with making sure that I'm eating seasonally and having a strong circadian rhythm. But it's been kind of nice, you know, even that watermelon, it tasted really good. My gut was not happy later, but it's not like I just wanted more and more and more of it. So that was kind of exciting.
Yeah, that was the next thing I was going to ask you actually is, so in the past though, would you have described yourself as an abstainer or a moderator in the past?
Definitely had to be an abstainer.
Interesting.
Absolutely.
So
I
after all
mean,
this time, your ability to maybe have a little bit here and there has come back without causing you any issues.
I think as long as it's something that's seasonal and it's, a fruit, I wouldn't say that I could be a moderator necessarily if someone gave me a regular cookie,
Right.
gluten, like a
Yeah,
regular
right.
sugar cookie. I don't think that I would be able to moderate that very well.
Mhm.
So that's
Right.
just not something I'm playing with a whole lot.
Yeah. I remember one of my very first interviews, like I was first, like not an interview I was doing. When I first entered the carnivore space and started learning about carnivore, I remember seeing Karen on an interview and I actually talked about this in another interview recently. But I saw Karen and I don't know if it was an interview, if it was one of her Instagram stories, but she had said that she will eat a cookie if her grandkids come to her and say, "Grandma, taste this cookie." And I would love to be able to get to that point where, I'm going to have grandkids probably in the next few years. And I would love to get to a point where if my grandchild, wants me to taste something that I can do it. Now, I hope that they don't eat a lot of sugar. Obviously, I hope that they,
Right.
and I don't think that they will. My family isn't carnivore. My husband mostly is, but the rest of my family is not. But they eat pretty healthy most of the time. Obviously, they splurge, and they don't eat like a zero processed food diet or anything like that. But I would like to think that my grandkids are going to eat pretty clean. And so, what I'm hoping is that at some point, though, if they make cookies, when they're little and they want me to try one, that I can do that without
Yeah.
it setting off this binge and make me want to eat the whole pan. Because I still feel like right now, if I took a bite of a cookie, a real cookie, that I would want to eat the whole pan.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm definitely still an abstainer, but I'm interested to see if later I could add, I don't think fruit's going to kill us. I mean, if you eat a few cherries or a handful of blueberries or a slice of watermelon, I think fruit is the least evil of all of the plant foods. And so if you're going to eat
Right.
something, fruit's the way to go.
Right. Yeah. No, that's the way I see it too. And I,
Mhm.
again, kind of going back and harping on the seasonality, but I just think that that's really important. It's sending the correct signaling to our body, and it feels so much more natural to eat
Yes.
a small portion of fruit sitting outside in the sun, grounded if you can. I mean, just
Mhm.
that doesn't feel wrong to me.
Yeah.
Now, if my kids come and there's this brand of chocolate that is so amazing, so good. But if I take a bite of it, I mean, it's like I can
Yeah.
feel my brain light up, and I
Mhm.
start making all these.
True.
Okay, well, I've had a bite, so I can just eat another couple bites, and then, well, I've already eaten a couple bites, so I might as well eat the whole bar. And well,
Yes.
gosh, I've already had that today. I might as well have another one.
Yeah.
Crazy. So I won't go
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely. If I've already had one bite of something, I might as well throw away everything. And I heard somebody describe that like if you're on your way somewhere and you make a wrong turn, do you turn around and go back to your house and start over the next day? No,
Right.
you get back on track. You follow the map that you have, you figure out where you went wrong and you fix it. And so I think that that's such a good analogy because that is what so many of us do in this diet culture. So many of us come from disordered eating and eating disorders, and that's what it's like, exactly how you described it. Well, I already had one bite, I might as well have more. And I think looking at it like you're on your way to a party and you make a wrong turn, you're not going to go all the way back home, miss the party, and try again tomorrow.
Exactly.
You keep going, you figure out how to get back to the road you're supposed to be on. And then, so I think we can do that with our diets too.
Absolutely.
I haven't really tried with a lot of different things. I did try at Christmas time and it was terrible. It was a 4-day fiasco. It was awful. And so I'm so glad that you have figured out that you can have a little bit of fruit here and there, but not real sugar. I think there's a clear distinction there for our brains too.
Definitely. And the crazy thing is when this has happened, I know that it's happening. I know what's going. I have these like two conversations going.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you're doing right now. Yeah, I know, but the excuses, it's just too crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting to that point of knowing what you just can't take a bite of, I think
Mhm.
is gold.
Yeah, I think so too. Oh, when you switched from like each time you made a change, I think probably, and tell me if I'm wrong, the way you did it from the way you used to eat to now was very gradual because you kept making these like little changes like, oh, how much better would I feel? So when you finally made the switch to carnivore, what did your family think? Do they think you're nuts?
Oh, I think they've thought I've been nuts for years.
Same here. My family is so burned out over the years of I made them drink celery juice every morning for like 2 months. I know at one point.
I
I mean,
did that too.
you
And it
did?
was the most horrible thing. I
Horrible.
mean,
Tastes
my
so
gut
bad.
was screaming at me, like, what are
Oh
you
my god.
doing? And I just thought, well, this is a detox. I'm
Yeah.
cleansing, I'm
Medical
detoxing.
medium
That's
says
what.
it's good for you. Yeah, do it.
Right. And I'm, going to the health food store and everyone's lined up getting their celery juice. And I'm like, yeah, this is good for me. It made me feel terrible though. And I've never had that happen eating meat. I've never had that
Right.
happen eating animal foods. Well, with the exception of pasteurized dairy, I've gone through phases in my life where I haven't been able to tolerate dairy as well. But other than that, if I'm just eating meat, I
Mhm.
don't feel bad.
Right.
But when I would juice, I knew somewhere deep inside, like, this is not good for me. But,
Yeah.
you're getting all this
Yeah.
information coming at you. You've got to eat
Mhm.
more vegetables. You got to eat more fruits and juicing it. That's the way to do it.
Right.
Oh my gosh. And then reading Sally K. Norton's book and learning about
Oh my
oxalates.
goodness.
Okay. That just shed a lot of light on things.
Sally is a rock star. I mean, she is amazing. So if you guys don't have that, we're going to talk about books towards the end. If you don't have Sally's book, it's one of the top 3 books that I recommend. I think every
Thank you.
household in America, in the world for that matter, should have Sally's book. I think everybody should read that because it really, like you said, sheds some light on the things that are wrong with us. And you automatically think, how could a superfood be toxic? Like that just doesn't make
Right.
sense. That these foods that grow out of the ground in nature, look how beautiful they are. Look at the color. We're supposed to eat the rainbow. How could that possibly be bad for us? Read Sally's book and you'll understand it's toxic superfoods. She's a rock
Yep.
star. She's amazing.
That book just blew my mind. And I thought I knew a lot
Right.
about
Me
plant
too.
toxins, but and even, last year when I went back to a more strict carnivore, this past year, I had taken out everything. So there were
Mhm.
0 oxalates in my diet. And I did have oxalate dumping symptoms. So I woke up one night with horrendous pain in my thumb. It was a gout flare. I've never had a gout flare before, but it was swollen. My daughter said it looked like I had a fake thumb on, it was
Wow.
just so big and red.
Mhm.
And I mean, it was so painful that it woke me up out of a dead sleep. So, and then I ended up with this crazy back pain out of nowhere that was different than a strain. It felt
Mhm.
like burning in my spine. And I'm very, very sure that it was oxalate dumping. So, I read Sally's book and
Mhm.
just started adding a few things back in and everything settled down. So I do make sure that I include some kind of oxalate food in my diet pretty much every day. And that might just be brewing some organic decaf oolong tea and
Okay.
having some tea during the day. But
Mhm.
it's helpful.
Yeah. So back to your family. So they think you're nuts. They thought you're nuts for a long time. Same
Oh
here.
yeah.
So what kind of diet does your family eat? Are they meat based or just healthy average or
They are definitely meat based because, well, none of them
because
really like to cook.
yeah.
So I'm
So
doing the
you're the
cooking.
one cooking. That's right.
And I'm doing the shopping. It
Right.
drives me nuts though. My kids will open the refrigerator and it's filled with meats and cheeses and raw milk and all these really amazing things. And they go, we have nothing to eat.
I
There's
know. Same
nothing to
here.
eat here.
Yeah.
Like there's tons of things to eat, but you actually have to cut things up and cook it and put it together. It's not
Yeah.
like, open a package of this or open a package of that. And
Hmm.
so my son is getting better though at cooking. Actually, he's been cooking for himself for a while and he will include carbs, but it's very, very meat based. My daughter, she eats meat based when she's here. When she's out, I don't even want to know what she eats.
Yeah.
And then my husband's just kind of like, what are you feeding me?
Yeah. That's right.
So
Yeah.
for him, though, he's a highly competitive Hawaiian outrigger canoe
Oh,
athlete,
wow.
and he has been for the past 30 years. And so for him, he's carnivore with me during the winter, but I do make sure that I start including some seasonal whole food carbohydrates for him, especially around his workouts. He's
Hmm.
one of those people that say, "Oh gosh, I need to put on 10 pounds. I
I
can't stop losing weight."
blah, blah.
I'm like, okay. So yeah, his diet, I kind of alter that a little bit in the spring and
Yeah.
summer when he's heavily training. But
Okay. So let's talk about this experiment you're doing. So you are working with some coaches and you are upping your calories. Let's talk about why you're doing that. And so far, after 5 days, what the results have been. Because a lot of people tend to undereat on the carnivore diet. So I think this is an important topic. Same.
Yes. Yep. I actually was under eating last fall. I wasn't tracking, and I think you say you can't tweak what you don't track. Is that your?
Yeah, I say track it
Yeah.
so you can tweak it.
Track it so you can tweak it. Yes.
Yeah.
I remembered hearing you say that. And I'm like, oh, that's so right.
So
And I
true.
go through phases of tracking. I don't mind it,
Right.
but I would love to get to a point where I don't have to track. So anyway, making the transition from summer to fall, this last fall, I went, I was going back to ketovore and not really tracking, and I was under eating fat. So I was basically under eating calories in general, and didn't realize this until December when I weighed myself and I went, oh my gosh, I put on 8 pounds. So then I started kind of going back, really thinking about what I was eating. And I did a day of tracking and I went, wow, I'm really under eating. So started working on slowly bringing the calories up, which actually led to some weight loss. But then I plateaued. And, even though I can coach somebody on weight loss, when it comes to me, there's so much going on in my head, and it's hard for me to keep myself totally accountable, and I go back to under eating. So I decided the coach needs to hire a coach. So I hired these two amazing coaches. They're a couple. They're very fit. They're very much quantum circadian aligned. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to throw everything out of my head and put my trust in them and let them tell me what to do for a few months, and we'll see what happens. So we had this great call, and they said, all right, well, we're going to have you really increase your calories just for 2 weeks. I said, okay. So it's like, I think it's maybe 600 calories more than what I normally have been, or what I've been eating for the past couple of months. And keeping it keto. So it's still very, very low carb. It's really just upped my protein and my fats. And I kind of freaked out the day before. And I was like, it's okay. It's all right. I'm trusting. I'm just going to do this. So I think I'm on day 5 of this higher calorie. I did gain maybe a little less than a pound the first couple days. And then this morning I actually weighed myself and it had dropped down to 2 pounds. But this is really crazy, but okay, I'm going with it. And I actually, I know it's water. It's water that's fluctuating. But I woke up feeling leaner before I even got on the scale.
Yeah, okay. I think we put so much stake in the it's water thing, because really in this case, it's not like you went from the standard American diet to carnivore, or from keto to carnivore. You didn't change what you're eating. You change the amount. But we always do that. We always say, oh, it's probably water. Because I think people say the same thing about me with the sardine fasting. Oh, it's water. Why would it be water? I went from carnivore to carnivore.
That's true.
Right? I think give yourself more credit than that. And give some credit to those extra calories, because we tend to undereat by so many calories. And this is I believe, I look at it like this is your body thanking you. Your body is like,
I like
thank
that
you for feeding me.
Yeah. And you know what? That is actually how it feels. Waking up this morning, that's how it felt. So I have another, little over a week of this higher calorie, and then they're actually going to drop the calories back down.
Okay.
And I think that they might increase my carbs a little bit, which is also a scary thing for me. And it's not going to be, major. I'm sticking with just the fruits that I feel comfortable with. I'm sticking with eating them in the middle of the day outside, but I am going to increase my raw dairy because, dairy's got carbs.
Yes, that's
right. So, I would like to, as much as I can, get those extra carbs from animal food sources. But yeah, there'll be a little fruit in there too. So, but again, I'm just trying to let go. This is an experiment. I feel like, it could definitely help me, which then helps me help my clients. So
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing. And that's a hard experiment to do, because when you're raising your calories, there's always this anxiety there for those of us who have been on a weight loss journey or have been chronic dieters over our lives. Raising your calories like that just seems so counterproductive and counterintuitive. So I love that you're doing that, and that you had to let go and just try that for the greater good. Like for, I just think it's amazing that you're doing that. And I think it's great. And I think your
Thank you.
body will thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. And I keep telling myself that. I said, no matter what, 2 weeks of higher calories is a great reset. In fact,
Right.
it's probably something that I am going to incorporate several times a year moving forward, because it makes sense. Even getting my calories to a point where, I'm at maintenance,
Mhm.
I still just think it's a good thing to try and go a little bit above that and raise our
Yeah.
metabolic rate. So
Yeah, I agree with
it's
that. So if you
good
had some
experiment.
book, yeah, absolutely. So if you had some book recommendations for people, what would they be?
Well,
Sally,
definitely, as we
obviously.
talked about, Sally's book,
Mhm.
Toxic Superfoods,
Mhm.
hands down, that is the
Yeah.
one I've been recommending to everybody. The other one that I really like and I recommend to my clients and friends and family is a book called The Circadian Code by Sachin Panda.
Okay.
It's a really short, quick read, but it gives you a great basic understanding of the circadian rhythm and why it's so important to focus on it.
Okay.
And then the other book that I'm still working my way through, but I think it's a fantastic handbook for people to have who are interested in circadian and quantum biology, is called The Mitochondria.
Okay.
The
Sounds exciting.
Mitochondriac Manifesto, this one
Awesome. Okay.
by R.D. Lee.
Okay.
So that will get you deep into quantum biology, circadian biology, and it's been a great book. Like I said, I've just been kind of slowly going through it, but it's been a really nice book to have on hand to reference. And yeah, so
Awesome. In a couple of weeks, let's get back together and do this again in a dedicated video to like circadian biology and all of that kind of stuff. So this one will be more like the nutrition avenue. And then we'll get back together and do one about all the other stuff. I've been incorporating a little bit of that too, trying to stand
oh
in the grass
good.
every day, trying to not use my phone until I get sunlight, in my eyes. I've been getting ready with a red light instead of turning on my bathroom light until I can get
Awesome.
outside. And so I've been incorporating some of that. So let's get together again and talk about that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great. I feel like lots of carnivores are actually being really open
Yeah.
to all the circadian stuff, and it just
Yeah.
makes me really happy.
I agree. Now tell people where they can find you.
I'm mainly on Instagram, and my Instagram is Health Coach Mais, MAIS, which is a nickname that my childhood best friend gave me back
Aw.
in 6th grade. So
Sweet.
that's just my Instagram actually used to be dedicated 100% to running. I've been a trail ultra runner for years and years and years. But after I moved to the mountains, I stopped doing running coaching and more of the health coaching. So I just changed everything over to focus more on health. So
I love it. Thank you,
yeah.
Miley, so much. This was a very great conversation, and I hope that you can help lots of people with your story.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great to talk to you.
Thank you, and thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on the Carnivore Revolution.